my life is crazy. Your life is crazy. And I thought that the only solution to that was like, I know we talk about like, the am I the asshole and, the king of assholes, Chris Watts and whatever. But like, I don't know. I figured a departure and doing something more fun.
Yeah. I want to apologize in advance if I'm a little out of it. I woke up at 5 a.m. today.
Why the hell did you do that?
I don't know. I just woke up. I couldn't go back to sleep.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, me too.
Once I especially, like, if I have to get up in the middle of the night, like if I have to go to the bathroom or something, if I get out of my bed, I'm not going back to sleep.
Yeah.
I hate it.
That's how it was with me. I was like, do I really need to pee right now?
Or can I wait? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, will I piss my pants if I go back to bed?
Right, exactly. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first since you're in a space cadet mood? Would talking wake you up more, or do you want to listen and get kind of woken up that way? It's up to you.
I think I'd like to go first because Jake is going to make me pasta.
What Ryan and I used to do when we had our now defunct channel WTF, Watch the Film, he would be so loud when he would, because we'd watch movies and it was commentary on the movies. He'd be so loud because he would want to just chew on the most crunchy snacks. So we would have a food noise counter in the corner. So we may have to have a slurp counter for this video. While Frankie launches on pasta for the 8th night in a row, how many times you actually make slurpy food noises? I don't even know if I'm exaggerating when I say 8 days in a row.
I'm pretty much a pasta eating expert, so.
There you go. Yeah, if you want to go first, you can. You and I, seriously, it's very squirrel around here.
Okay. I think we're going to enjoy this one.
Okay.
This is from Malicious Compliance. Passenger abuses me, the bus driver. Enjoy walking 4 kilometers home.
I already love it.
Yeah. Passengers have to press a stop button if they want the bus to stop at the next stop. Pressing the stop button flicks on a huge banner on the front of the bus along with making a loud buzz. There are multiple stop buttons on the bus. The conditions of buses are pretty bad here. Some of the buttons are faulty. It's usually not a big deal as passengers can see if the banner is flicked on, and if it's not, the passenger can just press another button or verbally tell me to stop. However, it just doesn't register with some passengers that there is a huge, visible, and audible banner. Unfortunately, these same passengers tend to lose their minds easily. It was 9:30 p.m., and I was driving between 2 large suburbs. Let's call them Sunnydale and Riverdale, which, love the Buffy reference.
And the Riverdale reference.
Yeah. A passenger must have pressed the stop button, but it didn't register on the banner. As I drove past the stop, he yelled, "Oi, I can't do the accent."
It's okay. We won't fault you. We may point and laugh, but we won't fault you.
I also don't really want to read this because it has the big bad C word, which some people are offended by. I'm not offended by, but I know some people are offended by, and I feel like it's a lot to put on YouTube, so.
Christmas?
Yeah.
Just say Christmas, it's fine.
Okay. You fucking dog, Christmas. You missed me. Stop, dickhead. I apologize. I tried to explain to him that the button must have been faulty and that I would drop him off at the next stop. I told him that I could not drop him off on the side of the road because I would get in trouble from the bus company as they have GPS tracking whenever I open the bus door. The passenger just yelled, "Stop talking shit and open the door." Something racist, not the big bad word, but just something racist that I don't want to repeat. I stopped at the next stop about 500 meters ahead, but the passenger yelled, "Just go to Riverdale, mate. I ain't walking." Now, what the passenger didn't know was that since Sunnyvale was a bigger town, Sunnyvale, not Sunnydale. Never mind, I misread it. The last bus from Sunnyvale to Riverdale was later than the last bus from Riverdale to Sunnyvale? Oh, he would be stranded at Riverdale 4 kilometers away from his stop. So I kept driving to Riverdale as the passenger requested. I dropped him and the other passengers off and closed the door. I could see him checking the posted timetable on the bus stop. I put my bus into gear and pulled out. I heard him exclaim, "Hey, wait!" as I did so. Unfortunately, I could not have dropped him back to a stop even if I wanted to. I have a strict schedule and change route numbers after each trip. My schedule now was to fill up the bus with diesel and head back to the depot. I filled up my bus and headed back to the bus depot. As I drove back, I saw him walking on the side of the road from 500 meters to 4,000 meters.
No! When you first read it to me, I thought this guy was going to be like, he doesn't understand that you have to hit a button if you want to get off the bus. No, this guy's fully aware. Like, my bus is fucked up. If you shout to me, hey, I want to get off at X stop or whatever, I'll do that for you. Like, he's willing to accommodate, and this guy just wanted to kind of be a racist twat. I mean, well-deserved. Well-deserved.
Yep.
That's so good. That poor guy, like, he drives past, and he's just walking down the road like, I regret all my life choices. Let's get a little petty revenge.
Yes.
Literally just titled, The Pettiest Thing I Have Ever Done. Uh-huh. I'm a 34-year-old man who runs a marketing agency here in the UK that employs 5 people. I also pride myself on being fairly rational, empathetic, and level-headed. I'm saying this for no other reason than to underscore how out of character this was for me. I live in a small house in a mostly student area. For the most part, it's fine. The students in the nearby houses have the occasional house party on Friday or Saturday nights, but never on weekdays. And until recently, they've usually finished by midnight, so it doesn't bother me. This new bunch of guys that moved in next door in November have been absolute dickheads, though. House parties until 5 a.m. on weekdays, letting random friends park on my driveway without asking, heckling and making fun of me as a group when we're both outside, all the good stuff. I've just rolled my eyes and ignored it for the most part, but I'm still human, so the constant disrespect still pisses me off. A couple weeks ago, however, I was working next to my window. I saw one of them taking a bin bag full of rubbish outside, and realizing there was no space in any of their bins, just walk into my driveway and put it in mine. For some reason, despite it being far from the worst thing they've done, that just irritated the shit out of me. I don't know why that was the straw exactly, just something about the combination of both the arrogance and the fuck you presumptuousness of it, combined with this bubbled up resentment from all the nonsense, it really got under my skin. So a week later, I woke up at 4 a.m. on a non-party day when I knew they'd be asleep, grabbed a random bag of the nastiest rubbish I could find from someone's bin down the street, so there's nothing to point this back to me, and went to their house. In the UK, mail is delivered through your door into the house via a post box that's freely accessible. So I painstakingly posted all of this absolutely disgusting rubbish through their letterbox. It took me a solid 20 minutes as I had to take multiple fresh air breaks to avoid throwing up. Then, just to seal the deal, I emptied a bottle of milk through as well, just to make it extra fun for them to clean up in the morning, and taped a note saying, "Stop talking to my girlfriend," to their door to further minimize the chance of retaliation. Having seen the entrance area of their house from knocking on the door in the past, I knew it's carpeted.
Oh.
I've never done anything like this in my life, and it might have been a bit much, but I do feel a lot better now. You have the garbage and then the milk on carpet.
On the carpet.
It's like that Seth Rogen movie. Like, what was it called? Was it just called Neighbors? Or like frat to his house. They're in a frat, but their frat house is in a residential neighborhood. And Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne like have a baby, and like they move in, and just wild, wacky, like frat parties every night. Literally, this guy is Seth Rogen. If it was 4 a.m. and it was a non-party day, these boys are probably going to sleep in, imagine just the smell of garbage, and then like what like reaction the garbage might have to that milk, where that milk would probably start smelling pretty rancid too.
Mhm.
Ugh.
That's literally the only word I could think of is just poetic.
Right? The moral of that story, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah.
How are your noodles coming?
I don't know.
I want my fucking noodles, Jake.
I want my noodles. I don't know why it just, like, the petty revenge one just hit me so hard. Like, it got me in my soul, and I was like, this is just what petty revenge is all about. This one is called, You Wanted to Pay My Bill, so here you go. I, 30 female, was reminded of this little MC in another sub and was so happy I finally had something to share in here instead of just reading everyone else's, but don't come for me if this sub is the wrong place for this post. About 10 years ago in college, I met up with some friends towards the end of my night and was a little inebriated. I had a reputation among my friends that no matter how drunk I was always good at math. It was my minor after all. We ended up hitting up a diner for some food, and when the time came, we got split checks. Drunk me grabs my card from my wallet and was waiting for the waitstaff to come collect payment, and someone I considered a friend at the time refused to let me pay my bill. She claimed I was too drunk and wouldn't be able to do the math for the tip, so she would just pay it. After going back and forth with her for a few minutes and getting increasingly offended and annoyed with her, she takes my check and puts my card down on the table in front of me. When the waiter comes, she tells them that she is paying for the 2 checks in her hand. Fast forward to a couple weeks later, and she tells me that I owed her $15. I asked for what, and she said, my food at the diner plus the tip and surcharge for having a party larger than 8. I let her know I tried paying my bill that night a few times, and she wouldn't let me. But more importantly, I never asked her to pay for me or say I would pay her back. She wasn't happy she was out 15, but she said she was paying for it.
I'm so confused. Like, why was she so adamant she had to pay the bill?
I have no idea.
Okay, so you needed the $15 because clearly, you know, you're going to get your undies in a bunch to get your $15 back. Why offer to pay it? And
I have no idea.
I can get that where you're like, oh, it's a, $8 tab. I'll tip $20. Like friends have done, weird shit like, oh, I had such a great night, I'm going to overtip. Like, I get that part. But then you let your friend pay and then you fill out the tip amount and then just have them sign it. Like, why do we need to make this more complicated than it is?
Yeah.
It's
and
very
especially, if this girl was, offended and was saying, no, my minor is in math. I know how to do math.
Right. He also said in there, somebody I considered a friend at the time, sounds like somebody died on the hill for this one, too, over $15. Wouldn't surprise me if it was the other friend, if you don't give me the $15, we're done. He's like, okay, bye, bitch. I mean, that would be what I would do. You demanded that you pay my bill, and now you want me to pay you back. My card was out. It was sitting on the table, ready to be taken as payment. But that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right, this one's a little bit of a longer one, so if your noodles come, you'll probably have a little bit of time to enjoy them then. Depending on, I don't know what Jake's doing. Is he I
don't know what he's doing either.
Oh, I want my noodles, bitch.
I want my noodles.
This one is called Suspended for Being a Minute Late. Fine. Enjoy handling the biggest project without me. Hey there, Reddit. I've been a long-time lurker on the subreddit, and after what happened at my job recently, I just knew I had to share my story. It's a bit of a long one, but trust me, it's worth it. So I'm Mark, and for the past 5 years, I've been working at this mid-sized tech company. It's been great, or at least it was until 6 months ago when we got a new HR manager, Susan. At least he didn't call her Karen. Now, Susan is the kind of person who loves rules a bit too much. She came in with this idea to revolutionize the workplace, but all she did was implement a bunch of unnecessary and strict policies. The one that really got under everyone's skin was her new attendance policy. It stated that if anyone was even a minute late more than 3 times in a month, they'd face immediate suspension without pay. No excuses, no exceptions. This was crazy considering we're all seasoned professionals, not school kids. But Susan was adamant, and the policy was enforced to the letter. Now, I'm usually very punctual, but life happens, right? Just my luck. I ended up being late 3 times in 1 month. The first was because of a massive traffic jam. The second was due to a power outage that killed my alarm. And the third, well, I overslept. Each time I was barely 5 minutes late, but Susan didn't care. She slapped me with a suspension notice. I was fuming, but then I remembered something important. Our employee handbook. I'd read that thing cover to cover when I first started, and something about the suspension policy stood out to me. I dug up my copy and found the section I was looking for. The policy stated that suspended employees must leave company premises immediately and are not allowed to engage in any work-related activities during their suspension. A plan started to form in my head. You see, at that time, I was in the middle of a critical project for a major client. It was a huge deal for the company, and I was the lead developer. Without me, the project would grind to a halt. So I decided to follow Susan's policy letter. The next day, I walked into Susan's office and handed her the suspension notice, along with a printed copy of the employee handbook suspension policy. I told her, as per the company policy, I will be leaving the premises immediately and will not partake in any work-related activities during my suspension, including the Johnson project. The color drained from her face. You can't just leave the Johnson project, she exclaimed. But I just shrugged and said, company policy, Susan. I'm sure you wouldn't want me to break the rules. I gathered my things and left the office. The fallout was immediate. The project team was in disarray without me, and the client was getting antsy about the missed deadlines. The CEO himself called me 2 days into my suspension, begging me to come back. I explained that I was merely following company policy as enforced by Susan. Long story short, the CEO had to intervene. My suspension was lifted, and I was back to work the next day. The best part, Susan's ridiculous policies were all reviewed and mostly scrapped. She's still with the company, but let's just say her enthusiasm for rulemaking has significantly diminished. So there you have it, folks. Sometimes following the rules a little too closely can be the best form of rebellion. And always, always know your employee handbook. I love this guy.
That's also poetic.
Right? Like, that's like chef's kiss. I love it so much. Fine, Susan, you want to suspend me? Then I will be suspended. You can that's fine with me. Do you still not have your doodle?
Nope, not yet.
Jake, what are you doing?
I have no idea. I said, Nunu?
Did he respond?
Not yet. He said he forgot.
What? Wait.
I want Nunu.
Is he making them?
Yes, probably.
Probably. Gotta keep the woman happy.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
I am ready. I think.
It got me by the name. This one is called Don't Call Me Honey. This isn't as salacious as some, but it's my favorite. My husband and I were having an argument. Probably something stupid. I don't remember now. We were in the middle of it, and I just remember being mad at him, but we called it a truce long enough to go get something to eat. His biggest pet peeve... Oh, Jake said I'm working on it.
Good.
Yeah.
They put their differences aside long enough for Jake to make new news.
Yeah. His biggest pet peeve was people he doesn't know calling him honey, sweetheart, etc. I told him I needed to use the restroom, and I went to find our waitress. I knew she would be up for the task because she was trying to crack jokes and was a little saucy while getting our drinks. She called him honey, and it's what gave me the idea. I asked her if she would help me with something, and I would give her an upfront $50 tip. When I told her what it was, she said she would do it for free, but I tipped her anyway. The task was to lay it on thick with the honey, sweetheart, etc., and boy, did she ever. Every time she came to the table, walked by the table, or made eye contact, she would call him babe, honey, sweetie, sugar cakes, and even made up some of her own stuff. He was so mad, but I was trying hard to hold it together. She did fantastic, and as we left, told me thank you. Her and the other waitresses had a blast coming up with names. I didn't worry about him being embarrassed because my husband is a massive extrovert and doesn't have a temper. But as soon as we got in the car, he was no longer mad at me, but so pissed off that the waitress kept calling him pet names. He has no idea, and anytime we go somewhere and someone calls him a pet name, he always says, "Oh my God, remember that one waitress?"
The anger towards you is just like deflected onto somebody else. Like, here's a giant bus that I'm going to throw that waitress under, and she was along for the ride, and I love it.
Yeah.
So good. It makes me regret that I'm one of the few people who didn't have to do a food service job before they found their big girl job. Because, like, all the things that I would have been willing to do. I'd have so been that waitress. I'd been, like, going to, like, every term of endearment that I could find online and smashing the weirdest words together. You know, like honey lips or bullshit like that, just to, like, you know, really lay it on thick. And it worked. Like, that's a genius plan. Because then they were together on it. Like, oh, that was weird. Yeah, I know that was really weird. Well, we're not fighting.
Oh, I know. Something about that just hit me in my soul when I read it.
Just the title, too. Because it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't call me honey. Yes, please.
Yeah.
But in this case, do call him honey a lot. Repeatedly, over and over, as much as you can. That's not me. Really? Video shows otherwise. Oh, this happened almost 10 years ago. I was probably 19 years old. I was home alone when my neighbor rang my doorbell to tell me someone had hit my parked car. My neighbor and I went out to inspect my car. There were some light scratches, and the paint was messed up. My concerned neighbor told me that the other driver should pay to fix it, and if there was any trouble, I should call the police, and she would be my witness. She told me she had heard a loud noise outside, came out, and saw a man in a blue SUV pull away and move the car further down the street in front of another house. I thanked her and went back inside to see if anything was caught on my security cameras we have. The camera points at our driveway and into the street. Mom parks in the driveway, so I always parallel park my car right in front of our house. Sure enough, when I replay the last 30 minutes, a blue SUV pulls up behind my car, tries to parallel park, and hits my car in the process. He definitely realized he hit something because he comes out of the car, looks, gets back in, and then drives past my car down the street out of frame. This was a big, tall man wearing a bright orange polo, very easily identifiable. I honestly didn't mind the scratches. To me, it was minor. If he had come to tell me about the accident instead of my neighbor, I probably would have been okay if he just apologized. My neighborhood is very small, and I knew most of the neighbors. I had not recognized this man. I walked outside to where I saw the blue SUV now parked in front of the house with a recently sold sign. Surely it wasn't. I walked up and rang the doorbell. He answered in his annoyingly bright orange polo and whitey tighties. Now, in hindsight, everything makes sense. But I was young, scared, and trying to hype myself up for the confrontation already, and this was just creepy and weird to me. Why would you think it's okay to answer your door like that? I asked if he was the owner of the blue SUV outside. Which one? That one? The only blue SUV outside? I explained to him about what my neighbor told me and security camera footage. He says, hold on, puts on his pants, and tells me to show him the footage, so we walk towards my house. Again, I was very scared and nervous. Even if he was a new neighbor, I wasn't sure about inviting him inside the house and what his reaction would be, so I decided to record on my phone our interaction from him first entering my home. I replayed the footage on our security monitor of his car hitting mine, him getting out with the same shirt, and at the end he's driving away. We also see a Star Wars sticker on the back of the SUV that matches what I saw on his actual car too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He gets angry and says, "That's not me." This was honestly not the response I was expecting at all. I laughed nervously. Like, what do you mean? I say, your shirt is the same. That could be anyone. It's your car, your sticker. You can't really see, but your shirt color when you get out. You can't prove that's me. Question mark? Okay, so he just grumbles away, heads out my door, and back to his house. At this point, I'm pretty mad too. Again, if he was apologetic, even if he had given me a sob story excuse how he's having a rough time, made a bad decision, whatever, I would have just been like, don't worry about it. It's just scratches. It's an older car anyway. But you, 1, hit and run, 2, deny and lie when confronted. With all this evidence? Like, no. So I listened to what my neighbor said earlier, call the police if there's trouble. You want to be a weirdo? Now I'll be petty and make this bigger than it needs to be. Police are now here, talking to me, and my neighbor who heard and saw him. I explained I confronted him, showed him the footage, and his denial. I showed the police the security footage as well as the confrontation recorded on my phone, where a big guy in an orange shirt is pointing to another man in an orange shirt yelling, "That's not me." The police also found this pretty amusing. I talked to the police, and while my concerned neighbor was being fussy, like, doesn't she need to get that repainted? The cop was like, these damages are so minor, not really, but I could call insurance to figure out the damage cost he'd pay if he wanted it repaired. I said no, because it wasn't really significant. Last I saw was him talking to the police in front of his house. Later in the day, my concerned, nosy, LOL, neighbor comes back to tell me he was arrested. She saw him, of course, getting put in handcuffs and put in the back of the police car. Later that week, I was visited by a detective for the police department. He wanted to go over my statements again, as well as emailing him the video footage I had. He explained to me that he was arrested for DUI. Like I said, everything made sense then. Why did he park in front of my house first, then move his car near his house? I have no idea. I just thought he was a weirdo, but answering the door in his underwear, his glazed eyes, illogical gibberish, arguing, repeating, "That's not me," definitely drunk. I hadn't been around people who really drank like that, so I didn't know. He smelled, but I just thought it was B.O. Definitely not a good first impression since the whole neighborhood was now talking about our new neighbor's drama, courtesy of Nosy Neighbor. They moved out about a year later.
That's not me. It wasn't me.
Okay, Shaggy. Like, dude.
Yeah, Shaggy's girlfriend believed him when he said that.
She even caught him on camera. Like, I do. Oh my God. But like the fact that like you're so drunk, my guy, that you answered the door in your underpants. Not even like he was like wearing boxers. He was in fucking tighty whities. And answered his door to a 19-year-old in his underwear. Good that the nosy neighbor was like on their side, because you don't want the nosy neighbor on opposing sides with you ever. It's never a good way to go.
No, because all your shit's gonna be like all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna know.
Yeah, everybody's gonna know every little minor detail of your life. Those were good. We did good.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
Me too.
All right. Well, eat your noodles. Make sure you say thank you for making you noodles.
I did.
Okay, good. I've raised you well. For the past 4 years, I've raised you well. All right. Well, eat your noodles.
Okay.
Get a good night's sleep.
Okay.
Brush your teeth.
I will.
All right.
If I remember.
Tell Jake I said good night. Love you both.
I will. Love you too.
All right. Bye, kiddo.
Bye.